So what you're saying is that retroactive jealousy doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually jealous of your partner's past.
Yep.
It could be a whole different underlying issue.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
is coming out as this.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Hazel.
Hey, it's Azura.
And I'm Germaine.
And welcome back to another episode of Clarity's Hush Podcast.
Man, you guys loved this previous episode so much about unrequited love and breadcrumbing. Y'all ate it like breadcrumbs that we had to bring her back on the show. Please welcome yet again, it's Nur Adam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wow.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, today's topic, I can't believe we've never
She's
spoken
sweating
about
already.
it. I am sweating. I am the president of today's topic, so I'm really looking forward to. But what have you been up to since we last saw you?
Wow, I think I've just been busy with client work, organizing workshops, events. It's something that I'm very passionate about. But yeah, I'm going strong, in the area of trauma recovery work, people who are heartbroken, people who feel abandoned. I'm like, that's where I come in. I help you out in your journey.
I love that. Yeah, make sure you follow her at thegoodlife_therapy. Now, today's topic
Yes. Take it away.
is about jealousy. Okay. Would y'all say that you girls are jealous when it comes to being in a relationship? Are y'all jealous girls?
I feel like we need a scale for this.
Okay.
1 to 10,
10 being the most
Correct.
jealous.
I think I'm at a 5.
You're a
I am
5.
confident in myself. I wouldn't call myself an over jealous partner. But sometimes certain things, still be jealous just for the sayangs,
Okay, we'll get into that. What makes Hazel, triggered when it comes to jealousy? What about you, Nor?
I guess so. In my past relationships, I've had experiences where I did feel jealousy, but I think at that point in time, I didn't know it was jealousy. But I just felt it just felt off when, something happened. Yeah, so I think the more I deep dive into this work, being a therapist and just discover a bit more, I'm like, oh, that was me being jealous. I didn't know that.
But what about you now then? On a scale of 1 to 10?
I think because I've not been in a relationship in a while as well. So I would not know in the context of romantic relationships. But if you were to talk about friendships, I think I'm a 2 or 3. I'm
not
chill.
super jealous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Azura?
Yes. I used to think I was a -2 or a 0.
Yeah.
Recently, I think I've discovered that I might be a 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm a bit sort. Yeah.
I do think
sometimes.
that there's nothing to be jealous about when the emotions are not as strong. I think emotions really exacerbate the feeling of jealousy.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I would put myself as a 10 lah. Let's just go straight there.
Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah, let's just go straight there, right? I'm working on it though. I'm
Yes.
working on it. Maybe now, some days I'm an 8, some days I'm a 10.
We take it.
Yeah.
Progress?
But today we're specifically talking about not just jealousy in a relationship, not just your boyfriend liked a girl's photo on Instagram, stupid things like that. But we're talking about retroactive jealousy. What does that mean, Nor?
I think retroactive jealousy, it is something that's very fascinating because it's a specific type of jealousy that deals with you focusing on your partner's past, specifically their, past romantic relationships, right? So when we're talking about general jealousy, it's got to do with present related circumstances. So for example, you're at a party with your boyfriend and a girl comes along, she starts flirting with your boyfriend. So you start to feel like,
Where is she?
Just joking.
right? And then
That's
you,
present jealousy.
yeah, that's present jealousy, right? So you start feeling something on the inside, unease, and you feel jealous. So that's you responding to current behaviors, current actions. But retroactive jealousy is a complete opposite of that. It's you feeling that sense of jealousy, but it is in response to something that is in the past. It's not happening in the here and now. It's not based on current actions, current behavior. And it's very interesting because this often puts a lot of people in this state of confusion of what is going on? And, if I could give an example, an analogy, right? It's like you stumbling upon your partner's old photo album, right? And in this photo album, it shows his history. So it's way before he met you. It shows snapshots of memories, moments, experiences of the people he's been with in his past life before he met you, right? So you take a look at this photo album, and instead of looking at those snapshots as, oh, these are past chapters in his life, he's been through that and it has shaped who he is today. Instead of looking at it that way, you go zoom in to specific chapters. And it's specific.
Spying on my life.
Am I talking about
Yeah,
you?
do you have a CCTV on my life?
But yeah, you zoom into specific romantic chapters, that he has been involved in, and your mind goes into this very interesting spiral, right? You look at those chapters and you start wondering, like, is he really over her? Does he still think about her? What's going on there? And again, it is very exhausting dealing with these sort of feelings, especially if you don't know what's going on internally.
Yeah, I do think like this retroactive jealousy is a beast of its own because it's not something that's happening right now.
Yep.
So you're like, is it real? Like, why am I feeling these things if it's not happening right now? This is in the past. And everyone will say, but it's in the past. Why do you bring up the past? And that's the challenge of it.
And I think it's very confusing because you don't really know what's going on. You don't know why you feel that way. I'm just trying to speak for you.
Thank you. I feel hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you don't really know what to do with it either because if you voice it or you throw a tantrum, it's unfair.
Correct. It's the past.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you understand that you also have a past, but like you're being unfair, but you can't help it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting, because
Well
I've never come across this term retroactive jealousy. And just now when I rated myself 5, I would think the bulk of it is this.
It's retroactive.
Retroactive jealousy. So let's say I'm in a relationship.
Okay.
I would like to, it's a bad habit lah, I'll ask my partner, hey, what are your past relationships like?
Ah.
And then after he shares with me because he views it as an open, honest communication, now I get a bit upset.
That's true.
What do you ask?
So when I first got together with my partner, we were like, okay, we've both had pasts. Let's be 1000% honest with each other about every single detail
Bad
of our
idea.
past.
Bad idea.
And then now we're seeing a therapist for good reason. And the therapist is like, that's such a shitty idea. Why would you guys do that? Like, why would y'all do that? We're like, it's too late. We already know everything, right? Yeah, it's too late. And I think retroactive jealousy focuses on this very unhealthy preoccupation with your partner's past, who they dated, who they slept with, who they hung out with, who they texted, whatever it is. I remember I was at his mom's home and she loves keeping photos everywhere, photo frames. And I'm like looking. And I feel like I knew what I was looking for, but I wasn't. I was just like, oh, so nice. Oh, your brother's wedding. I was like, oh, who's this girl? I was like, who's this girl? He's like, oh, that's my ex. I was like, oh, a photo of your ex in your mom's home. Okay. And I walk away and I hurt my own feelings for what?
But
For
then what did
you
he do about the photo?
Nothing. It's
He
in his
couldn't
mom's
because
home, of course. It's just that photo frame is to celebrate his brother's wedding. That's the point of the photo frame. But yes, back to retroactive jealousy. Where does it come from? Does it come from a feeling of like, I'm not enough? Because that's what people say. Oh, your self-worth is not enough.
Yeah, and that's one of them, right? When we're talking about retroactive jealousy, it often stems from a place of unfinished business, unprocessed emotions, in the past, and now it's being replayed in the present moment in an attempt to reconcile something that has got to do with, old hurt, old wounds. And I feel that it is important for us to get to the root cause and the origin of what is causing retroactive jealousy to be there. And I feel that we can get curious about 2 key stages here. One is the childhood experience, right? And the other one is the later developmental years. So for the first part, the childhood experience, get curious about, what do you go through as a child? What was your family dynamics like? Were there certain things that you were struggling with as a child that you didn't really have the opportunity to talk about it? Maybe as a child, you grew up in an environment where your parents were there physically, but emotionally, they were checked out. Maybe they were constantly busy with work. Maybe they themselves were struggling emotionally, mentally. And because of that, they couldn't really have the capacity to be with you in the way that you want them to.
How does that manifest? Like, how does that link to, retroactive jealousy?
Because what you've been exposed to as a child, it becomes your very programming. It becomes your belief system on what you know about the world, about what you know about love, what you know about relationships, what you know about how to cope with difficult emotions. Let's say you were in an environment where your parents were constantly not there, right? There is the elements of emotional neglect. So you learned on how to have to deal with your emotions on your own, right? Because you feel like, if I cannot depend on my parents to be there for me, and I'm struggling on my own, something needs to be done. So in a way, you've learned these adaptation sort of strategies in order to cope with the inner conflicts and inner pain that you're dealing. Like, let's say if you grew up in an environment where there's a lot of chaos, a lot of fighting going on between your parents, and maybe you witness a separation of your parents' divorce. So what that happens is that you learn as a kid that it is not safe to be there in that environment. It's not safe to express your own emotions and your needs because other people's needs mattered more. You need to make sure that you need to know exactly what other people needed in order for them to give you peace, right? So you learn to take on the role of the peacemaker, the mediator, the emotional caretaker, the adult in the family. And these are enormous roles for any kid to carry. It basically denies you the opportunity to experience childhood, right? If you had to take on these roles early on as a child, you basically didn't have time to be a child, to be the carefree kid, to be curious, to have fun, to play, because you had to do other serious stuff.
And you didn't form secure attachment.
Exactly.
No, she's talking to me. Like.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. You okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah, that's very true. I think, all these things as children shape us into what we are now. And I think the problem with retroactive jealousy is a lot of people think like, oh, it's that overly attached girlfriend. It's the crazy girlfriend, right? It's the girlfriend who's like so jealous. But I do think it afflicts guys as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like when we're talking about jealousy, retroactive or otherwise, it is something that is often portrayed as a more female trait, right? And I feel it touches on a very profound cultural bias. We see this in movies, TV shows, we see this in pop songs, social media. There are these terms that have been tossed around, like for example, psycho ex-girlfriend, drama queen, diva, possessive, stalkerish, and all of these labels are associated around women experiencing jealousy. And the problem with that is that with these stereotypes, it causes a lot of issues for people experiencing it, because for men, right, they have this cultural expectation where they need to be the strong one, the secure one, the put together, the calm one. When there is this cultural expectation for them to live up to that, when they feel jealousy arise, it's natural for them to go, oh, I should not say it because I don't want to be labeled as insecure or petty or controlling. And then for the women, because they know there is that stigma out there to feel jealousy, again, because they don't want to be judged, they don't want to be labeled, they keep it in, when jealousy does arise.
Oh, on the contrary, I feel like women we tend to express jealousy more because we know in a certain way we can.
That it's okay.
Yeah,
right?
It's
okay.
expected of us.
Yes, and I feel like it would be okay for women to approach their partners in a relationship to speak about this. But what are some signs of retroactive jealousy in the relationship?
I would say for the person who is experiencing retroactive jealousy, one of the things that you would notice is that you get caught in this obsessive loop. You tend to ruminate a lot. Your thoughts go wild, basically. You want to go into that space of wanting to know every single detail of what happened in your partner's romantic past.
But
and if you
want to
can't
know either, like you want to know but you don't want to know.
Yes, it's kind of this weird
dilemma.
Yeah, weird tug of war, weird dilemma that's happening. Cognitively, like rationally, if you go there, it's gonna cause a lot of hurt for yourself. But you can't help but want to go there and to find out for yourself, because again, it's this adaptive strategy, it's this self-soothing mechanism that you have developed from early on in order to soothe that discomfort that you're feeling on the inside. What we need to understand about retroactive jealousy is that is just a presenting problem, right? If I were to give an analogy of an iceberg, if you are the boat here above the waterline, what you see is just above the waterline. And that's the tip of the iceberg. So that's where retroactive jealousy lies. And what is beneath the waterline is all the stuff, the narrative, our life scripts, our belief system, our hurts, our pains, our insecurities. All of that is below the waterline. And that is what we need to get to the root cause. We need to get there to heal those parts in order to heal this obsessive cycle that we keep going into. So number one is this obsession. Number two, because you're so obsessed about the past, it pulls you away from being in the present.
So true. It's like, sometimes it's like, there's so much good that's happening in the present, but you're like so focused on, oh, this happened in the past. And then you become so negative and like resentful.
Question for Jeremy. if you could turn time back, would you still have that discussion with your partner? Like
About
understand,
everything and
yeah,
anything.
correct, each other's past, every single relationship you've been in. Would you still want to know?
At this current point, I haven't healed yet, so I would still want to know.
Oh,
But I'm hoping to get to a point where like I don't even need to know. And the interesting thing is that we talked about how it mostly, they say like, oh, only women are jealous of their partner's past.
I don't think so.
When we first got into a relationship, actually we were both experiencing very strong levels of retroactive jealousy. And so much that it really impacted our daily lives. Like, hens were threatened to be thrown and stuff like that, which is very unhealthy. But for him, well, he's also got 12 years on me, right? And he's been working on himself a much longer time. He actually managed to, I wouldn't say recover, but cope with it a lot quicker than I have been. I'm still stuck there, but he's dealt with it and now he's on the other side. So I'm looking to get there. And if you're listening, you're like, I also want to get there. Well, ask Nur, okay? Don't worry. That's coming. That's coming.
I have a question. So you were saying that, everybody has baggage, right? And everybody has this like whole iceberg below the surface that can't be seen, all this hurt, trauma, whatever, but it's different for each person, but everybody has it. So does that mean that it comes out in different shapes and form, and one of it is retroactive jealousy?
Yes, absolutely. Our pains, our unresolved pains, they will find its way on how to let itself be known. So one of the ways it could be retroactive jealousy for some is because they're dealing with so much suppression. It comes in a form of depression, anxiety, mood disorders, procrastination. And this list could actually go on.
So what you're saying is that retroactive jealousy doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually jealous of your partner's past.
Yep.
It could be a whole different underlying issue.
Yeah.
That is coming out as this.
Yeah.
Oh.
It is that past, your partner's past romantic relationships that's triggering and revisiting old wounds inside of you, right? The unresolved fears, insecurities, childhood wounds. And what we know about unresolved wounds is that it resides in the unconscious mind and body. So the unconscious is this hidden storage system inside of you that holds the emotional blueprint of past events. So it holds all the hurts, right? The emotions, the sensations, the memories of the times that you felt frightened, overwhelmed, abandoned, traumatized. So it's all inside there. And the work that we need to do is to be able to revisit safely these parts inside of us that's stored in that dark, hidden storage, and to be able to bring it up to that conscious layer so that when it comes up, when we get triggered, we are aware that this is happening right now. I feel that one of the things that's so important for us to know to reduce this crazy confusion and frustration that we're feeling right now is whenever it comes up, it's for us to understand this trigger, this jealousy that we're feeling, is it coming from present circumstances or is it coming from something in the past? Because when you don't know whether it's from the past or present, past, it becomes mushed up, it becomes so confusing, and you don't know even where to start in terms of your healing journey. But when you're able to take that step back to really reflect and see where is it coming from, if you see that is majority of it is coming from the past, then you know that's the work that you need to get into. When you know that it's coming from the present, that can be communicated and worked out with your partner
more effectively, I would believe. I've seen research that says that a sign of retroactive jealousy is when you find that you're unable to engage in sexual intercourse with your partner.
What?
Does it get that serious?
Yep.
How does it get there?
Because at the end of the day, it deals with intimacy, right? If at the end of the day you have so much of this unresolved wounds on the inside, the fears, the insecurities, what that means is that your own relationship with yourself, it doesn't feel secure, it doesn't feel intimate, right? And we tend to project whatever is going on inside. So if we ourselves find it hard to be intimate and vulnerable with ourselves, it makes sense that we are trying to be intimate and vulnerable with our partners. It's going to feel so hard, so unfamiliar, and so awkward and foreign.
So this is not even like, I don't trust my partner. It could even be, I don't trust myself.
Exactly.
Sounds like a very deep problem. You need to work on. And you know what makes it so much worse these days is social media, freaking social media. It's such a great thing to exist, but it's also the bane of everyone's existence because it almost amplifies and it feeds into that retroactive jealousy. On social media, if you want to find something, you know what digital footprint is, right? If you want to find something, you will find something.
Yes.
Yep.
And for someone with retroactive jealousy, it's like a treasure trove of, forget the photo albums. Let's look at Instagram. Oh my goodness. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy when we're talking about the internet. I mean, while it provides us with this beautiful tool for us to connect with people all over the world, it's so convenient. We can get so much information just with a couple of clicks. I would say that for someone who's struggling with retroactive jealousy, oh my God, it's the biggest nightmare ever, because what it does is that it indulges in this obsession. The obsession with comparing of yourself with your partner's exes, the obsession in wanting to dig up all the information possible in order for you to feel this sense of security on the inside. You know, in the past, way before the internet existed.
Snail mail days.
Yeah, snail mail days, right?
Pigeon
You
with the
don't you don't
letter.
have like Instagram, social media. If you wanted to indulge in that obsession, probably like, you know, a snail mail, physical stalking were probably your own options. And if you'd ask me, it's so much effort to do that. Imagine
agree.
if your partner's ex stayed somewhere like on the other side of the globe. You had to buy a plane ticket to fly all the way there to check out like what she's doing over there. So I think that the internet had really lowered the barrier to entry to indulge in this obsession. And I feel that yes, the internet is beautiful. It comes with its convenience, but it also comes with a cost. Because what it does, it denies yourself the opportunity to sit with what is really the one that's causing you the problem. Instead, right now, you have all these instant gratification tools. that
But
you
the
can
ironic
quickly
thing
go
is,
in.
it's not even gratifying.
Yeah.
Most times when you go down the rabbit hole, you
It
come out
causes
feeling
you
more
hurt.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you feel that sense of relief of, I know.
It's like a drug.
yeah, it's like
That's
a
what it
drug,
is.
right?
It's like
You
an
feel that
itch
high.
that you have to scratch,
Yeah.
no?
You scratch also?
No.
Oh, okay. You
That's
scratch,
good.
Hazel? No scratching? I'm the only itchy one.
I have a question. So when people go down this rabbit hole, right? For example, they're stalking, they're finding every information about their exes and all that. Are they actually trying to compare themselves and trying to find some value
Yeah.
to themselves by, trying to pick out their flaws? Are they trying to, just pick on that person and just make themselves feel better?
Absolutely. It is a tool to gain that external validation, to kind of reinforce the belief that, okay, I am enough. I am enough as I am, right? Because it is coming from a wound that does not feel enough. So that wound has learned that in order for me to feel enough, I need this external validation in order to tell me otherwise.
When you treat your clients who have retroactive jealousy, what does that look like? What are your clients struggling with?
I think a lot of them, they do struggle with a lot of childhood trauma related matters. So I think, what I shared earlier, there are two key stages to it, which is the childhood experience and also the later developmental years. So the rule of thumb is this: the earlier and more frequent the event that is frightening and traumatic for you, the larger it leaves the imprint on you. And in a way, it gets a bit harder to kind of navigate through the wound because it's so deeply ingrained since childhood. You went through series and experiences that made you feel not good enough, right? That made you feel unlovable, abandoned, and rejected. And then later on in life, you experience something similar. Maybe you got cheated by a boyfriend, you got abandoned and ghosted by your close friend, by a colleague. So all of these experiences, it adds on to the same layer of pain, right? It echoes the same familiar pain of, I am not enough, I'm unwanted, I'm unworthy of love. This world that I'm in feels very unsafe, and because of that, I need to put, my walls really high so that I can protect myself from not feeling hurt again.
Well, this sounds linked to a story that I'm about to share with all of you here. Maybe you can offer some insight into the mental perspective of this person experiencing retroactive jealousy. Okay, so interestingly, the title of her story is Why Can't She Just Get Married? Okay, so this is written by a female online user. She says that her retroactive jealousy has been triggered around only one of her husband's exes, his most significant relationship before ours. And this is because of a few reasons. Number one, he was still sore about the breakup when they started dating, which is, in my honest opinion, a red flag. Okay, number two, his ex is 6 years younger than her, and she believes that his ex is more attractive because she's younger, right? And number three, the ex shares more in common with her husband in terms of hobbies. And last but not least, the husband and the ex have been broken up for more than 3 years, and she is still with the guy she left him for, but they have not taken the next few steps in their relationship, meaning the ex and the new guy have not gotten a house together, have not gotten married. So this user stalks the ex every time to see if she's getting married, because she feels like only when the ex has gotten married, she would feel secure. Like, okay, now she's officially off the shelves. I can have the husband to myself.
And then you think nothing can happen, man?
Oh,
Just because she's married?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so I feel like the problem stems from the female user herself, not so much of the ex. And this retroactive jealousy has eaten so much of her.
Yeah, I think it echoes what we've been talking about, that her sense of security, her sense of safety in self is dependent on what happens out there. So in this case, is dependent on whether that ex gets married or not, right? To her, I think in this world where she believes in is like, if she gets married, then my security with my partner
Increases.
is okay. It's cool. It's not
So if
really
you had
shaken.
a client like that, right, what would your remedy, like what would you tell her to do to like bring that safety back to herself?
Should she even still be in this relationship? Because I feel like it's somehow toxic.
Yeah, and I think that the only way for you to get clarity on whether to stay or to leave is to really work through what's going on. So one of the core things in terms of the things that I do with my clients is not just about rehashing, talking and revisiting what happened to you, right? Because I have a lot of clients coming in initially saying, I know so much about retroactive jealousy, I know about attachment styles, I read about childhood trauma, but why is it that I can't stop this obsessive loop? Why is it that I cannot stop obsessing about what's happening with my partner's exes? And the reason to that, when I hear this, it is because of the mind-body disconnect. Your mind is telling you, okay, you need to move on. You need to be a better version of yourself. You need to stop this obsession. However, what we know about the body is that it remembers and it stores memories from the past. Painful emotions, sensations, stories from the past. If that part of the body, right, this part is not worked and looked into, what you'll find is that there'll be a greater disconnect between what the mind wants you to do and what the body remembers. So it's not just about talking about it, it's about asking yourself this very important question. So the clients that I work with will be very familiar with me asking this question. And it's this question of, what are you feeling in your body right now? What is that felt, sensation that you're feeling in your body right now? And what this question does, it forces the client to pause and be like, oh, am I supposed to feel something in my body? And then they start noticing that, oh, I'm actually feeling something in my body, right? Maybe your chest tightens, right? You're feeling something here. Maybe you feel that knot in your stomach, your palms get sweaty, your fingers, you feel that tingling sensation, your arms feel very numbed up. So these are the things that you want to be able to take note of. What is your body trying to speak to you on? Noticing the sensation, and when you stay with that sensation long enough, something will come to you. It will reveal to you the deeper layer of the emotion that you're still carrying. It will reveal to you the deeper layer of some memory that you're still holding on to that is still very painful.
It takes a lot of work on an individual's part to really confront yourself. And I think for people that have not, having an understanding partner will definitely make it a lot easier for you to do that. But in this next story, this is tough. It's a female. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 3 months. We met on Bumble. He was previously engaged to someone that he met online as well. And they were doing long distance for 2 years, right? And they had plans to marry. She had plans to move and, and all that. But they eventually called off the engagement because she had been holding on to a lot of relationship issues, but she didn't really share that with him. So he didn't have closure, right? And he kept trying to win her back, kept trying to, try to make the relationship work. He really loved her. After they broke up, he dated 4 different girls before finally dating the poster who posted this. Now she has a bit of retroactive jealousy and she thinks, well, it seems like that girl was his one true love. Who am I in his life? And he had to date so many people to get over her. What do I have to fit into his life? She says that she knows she needs therapy, but she can't really afford it right now. And he understands that this is retroactive jealousy, but it does make them feel a little bit more distant. It's hard to deal with, right? Even as a partner, it's hard to be supportive. Have you seen situations like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this deals with the wound of not being chosen and being prioritized in the past. And that's why it's coming up today as, why can't I be his one and only? Right? Why am I not the chosen one? Am I not good enough for him?
And that's not true.
Yeah.
So what would you tell your clients?
I would love to be able to tell them in a sentence, but I think it's so hard because there are many layers to it. But what I would say to this person is to get curious about where this voice is coming from. This narrative that's coming to you of why can't I be his one and only? Allow yourself to look deeper and to see whether are there past experiences that you've been through in your life, maybe in your childhood experiences that made you feel that way, where you felt as though you weren't chosen, where you felt as though you weren't made priority number one. And I think the more you get curious about past stories that your body is still holding on to, it gets you to get a bit closer to what it is that you need to have that closure with.
So once you identify, right, okay, this is coming from this in the past.
Yeah.
What's the next step? Like how do you get to closure?
You work with your body. For example, when you understand the patterns that's coming up, the question to ask yourself, when this trigger comes up, where am I feeling it in my body? Let's say it's coming through your chest, right? When you stay with it long enough, sometimes what comes up is I'm feeling sadness that's coming up. When you stay with it long enough, sometimes a memory comes to you. Maybe you see a younger version of yourself, maybe 5-6-year-old you that's curled up in one corner of the room. And then what you're also seeing is that you're hearing noises, your parents fighting outside the room. And you're also connecting to this experience of this younger version of you who feels really sad, very torn that your parents are constantly fighting, feeling very lonely that, you don't have anybody to talk to turn to in those times, right? So these are the parts of ourselves that we want to get curious on, because these are important data and insights that we want to collect about ourselves, so that the more we understand parts of ourselves that are still frozen in the past, the more we're able to come in to help these younger wounded parts on the inside.
So after understanding all of those, is it possible for retroactive jealousy to completely go away?
I would say it's possible to heal from retroactive jealousy. And what I mean by healing is, number one, you have a more transformed relationship with your triggers and your emotions, right? So instead of seeing those as like, oh my God, I need to fear my triggers and my emotions, you come from a place of, oh, they're coming up right now. So what is the message you're trying to speak to me on? So you come in from the lens of curiosity and compassion to learn more. Number two, what you'll notice is that there'll be a reduced dependency and reliance on external factors and validation. In order for you to feel secure and safe in your own body, in order for you to feel secure and safe in your relationship. And number three, you realize that there will be a greater degree of acceptance when it comes to the concept of healing, right? You no longer see it as, healing is something that is like an end destination, an end goal which I have to rush to complete, and that's it. It's not like a one-off thing, but healing, it is this continuous, ongoing journey that you have to move through till your very last breath. And I feel like when we reframe and have a healthier relationship on how we view doing the work, seeing the different emotional parts, it helps to create an inner world that feels actually okay to be in. Not a scary place that we have to constantly run away from or run to people in order to feel okay within our own selves.
Interesting. So last question. What if today I'm not the one experiencing retroactive jealousy, but my partner is? How can I better support my partner?
I would say one of the things, it is being able to listen without judgment. Because for someone who is struggling with retroactive jealousy, there's already so much shame that they're dealing with on the inside, right? So if a partner were to come in and try to shame the person, label them, you're like, dramatic, diva, crazy, it makes that part of them that's holding on to that pain of being abandoned, rejected, want to close off even more. And that part wouldn't want to come out and share the story of what is really causing him or her to be in pain. Number two, I would say it is important for the person who is supporting someone with retroactive jealousy to also be aware of boundaries, because it can get exhausting to be able to navigate through the conversations, the discussions with someone who's struggling with that. So be aware of your internal capacity. Have self-care practices for yourself to make sure that you yourself are taking care of yourself, you're filling up your own cup so that you can be in a space to help your partner as well. And I think number three is to be able to encourage healthier coping mechanisms. So if you're noticing that the person is, indulging in a lot of obsessive sort of tools and coping mechanisms, to be able to gently let them know that this is happening and to encourage them to also seek professional support. Because, on your own, it can be really, really hard to navigate all the deep, dark parts inside of yourself on your own. But having that someone that is neutral, who's able to come in, to compassionately listen to your story, hold space for your emotions, and walk with you in that journey, my gosh, it will feel like a huge load of whatever it is that you're holding on the inside.
But it's not easy for a partner to be doing all that, because I think when it's in regards to you, your partner is being jealous about your past, right? I think it's very easy for someone to feel attacked for something that they had no control over because it was
True.
just part of life. And you're coming at me with something that I can't do anything about. I can't
change.
undo, I can't change. So I think that's how things escalate, right? I would presume because, you know, it's very easy for the other person to feel affected by your emotions and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I guess this is what, like Nur said, it's a constant work in progress up till your very last breath. Wow, this is an insane episode. We unpacked so much
gosh, I
hidden
know.
trauma. But before we go, Nur, any final pearls of wisdom for our audience?
I would say if this flavor of jealousy is something that speaks to you, I want you to know that, you know, you're not alone. You know, there's so many individuals that who also struggling with this, both men and women. Just because we don't talk about it a lot and often does not mean that it does not exist, does not mean that it's not common, right? So that's one. And I want you to know that, you know, whatever you're feeling right now, this sense of jealousy has nothing to be ashamed of, because jealousy, it is a universal human experience. It is a natural emotional response to something inside of you that feels threatened outside. So our role is not to add more shame and judgment to it, but it's to be able to come in from that lens of understanding, okay, right now something feels off. I feel threatened by something. How can I go in to understand a bit more on what is, you know, below the waterline, and to see it for what it is, which is a signal, a message, right, that's trying to speak to us on something, and not to take it as a life sentence. And I think the more we're able to do this work, to form this relationship with ourselves, to get curious about our triggers, our emotions, the more our inner world will feel like a safe place to be in. And this can help to create that conducive environment to deepen our healing and to make sure that, you know, we are living life to the fullest.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nur. Thank you
You're
for
most
sharing
welcome.
your wisdom with us today. And yeah, take some time to reflect. As always, with any episode after Nur, we all have to sit and reflect on what she said.
Yes.
And I'm sure we can find more little tidbits on Nur's Instagram at thegoodlife_therapy. Don't forget to follow them. And also follow us as well at itsclarity.co.
That's right. You can listen to us on Me Listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, turn on your notifications.
We're on YouTube as well. And who knows, Nur might come back for a third time. Just saying, you never know. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nur.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
My side note is at an important family event, no plus ones in the photo.
No lah, that's not fair, Azura.
You don't know what's going to happen.
That's not
How about
fair.
take many different versions?
Yeah, I agree.
We
I
start with
agree.
just the family, then we add one by one.
Yes.
You never know what's going to happen.